This video is being shot in at least 2 parts, possibly 3, and I'll edit them all together. This was supposed to be the middle part, but it is actually the more exciting beginning. So the next part you'll see about a few minutes from now will go into more of the heading of feeding guppies for optimum growth, maximizing the size of your guppies. The thing I mentioned throughout in the next part is that the best food to feed your guppies, especially when they're young, is live baby brine shrimp. And at this point, I'll just show you how I do it. These are 2-liter conical hatchers. Now you can see the one on the right is looking a little bit orangish because that's been set up for 24 hours. The one on the left is not, because it's I just finished taking the shrimp out. I'm about to feed the fish with it, and this is how I prepare the brine shrimp hatchers. I try to take shortcuts, and pardon the next part, you're liable to just see my arm or the back of my head or whatever ends up in the picture. So I use baking soda, which just regular good old baking soda, and I take 1 scoop of it and put that in, and that is for raising the pH. The next thing I put in is the brine shrimp, which I use in 90 to 95%. This may be tough to follow because I can't do both here, but I put in 1 scoop, 2, and 3. Probably supposed to use 2, but I use 3. And the next thing I do, as I try to take shortcuts at work, is look at this official measuring thing. This is a top of a Penplax heater, and I have a black line marked, and that's where I fill the salt to. I use regular table salt, non-iodized, and then that goes in, and everything is set for waiting 30 to 36 hours for the next hatch. I have a lid for the hatcher because the original one broke. Try to do this without messing it up. And what I do is hold that piece in there so it doesn't move. Move that over there. Use the trusty angelfish breeding slate to hold everything down. And that's pretty much it. So that brine shrimp, that's all it took, other than cleaning out the container for setting it up for tomorrow. So now the next step, we'll kind of turn around here, and you can see this is what I get out of 2 of them. Excuse me, out of one of the brine shrimp cones. So I'm just trying to get it to move around some so you can see how much is in there. It's quite a bit, and I got lights over top to try to maximize being able to see what's going on. So I use the ear washer syringe, and then there we go. That's pretty much all there is to it. So the fish are going to go bananas to eat their shrimp. You might be asking why I have 2 sponge filters in this tank. This is a grow out tank of the red bluegrass metalheads. So this is a filter I made a long time ago. I just rinsed it out. It's actually part of an AquaClear replacement sponge, and it works great, but it's the large pour, and pretty much whenever I pick it up to clean it, it leaks the dirt all over the tank. So I'm seeding the filter I made before in a prior video, which is a 4x4x4 on a bathroom tile, 4x4, and gonna let that seed in there with the good filter, because if I pulled the other filter out, at this point and just put in a new one with without the beneficial bacteria, then I would just have a pretty much a tank of dead fish, because it would crash. So you can see, you can almost see the metalhead characteristic. It's more evident at night, I guess, for some reason. This is a blue one. That's one of the long fin ones, which is interesting. That's a long fin female. I have a few of them with these this batch, and I have some that are red and blue. Like this one is kind of red and blue, and there's another one somewhere. But anyway, you can see they're going after the shrimp. If I expand this out as much as possible, you can actually see the sea monkeys zipping around. So that's a nice piece of dirt right there. Anyway, like I said, I get some long fins. I guess swallow with this. That male, that female behind. The females look good. The males kind of look ridiculous. And you know, they go nuts for the live baby brine shrimp. As I will say in the next part, it's the best food you can feed baby guppies and all guppies, probably up to about 6 months of age. After that, if you're going to keep them as pets and enjoy it, you can feed them whatever you want, including brine shrimp. If you're going to try to enter them in IFGA shows, you want to stop the live baby brine shrimp to the males after they're about 5-6 months old, to maximize their growth as well with high protein foods. But you don't want to get them chesty, which means like the bottom of their chest will really fill out. In other words, it's a fat guppy, and you're not going to get too many points for that. So these are developing nicely. Some of them still have the grass pattern in the tail. Some are developed into a mosaic. This one you can see the metalhead pretty clearly. And just to cheer up some more fish, I will put some, if I don't mess this up, I will put some live baby brine shrimp in this tank of black muscals. This is actually a coal tank, and once in a while I pull some males out of it if they get developed pretty nicely. A few of these are. Some of them have nipped fins. But I have a few good ones, like that one's pretty nice, this one. But these were culled, a lot of it for either fin shape or because the male didn't get the full black coloration. Too much of the stomach is white or silver. But nice fish. This one's a beautiful one. I'll probably pull that male out and use him as a breeder with 3 or 4 of the females. And I'll go over that in a later video. But you can see they're really going after the live baby brine shrimp. It's one of the most nutritious foods you can feed to your guppies, and you'll maximize the size and the growth potential on the young guppies by using high protein foods. You can also try decapsulated eggs, which I'll go over in the next part, and golden pearls, and there's some other high protein content food you can give them. You try to keep it like a powdery to a small granule because it's easier for them to eat. You're not feeding big cichlids, you're feeding little guppies with little mouths, not mouse. And yeah, that's a great start for them. I tend to feed the live baby brine shrimp for their evening feed meal, which is for me around 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock at night. In the morning, around 11 or so, I give them a feeding of some high protein, high density foods I mix up, or a flake food mix that I mix up. It's full of various, that's a lousy male, I got to get him out. It's full, the flake food mix is various things, a lot of meat content, spirulina, and brine shrimp flake, egg flake, garlic flake. I mix a whole bunch of them up in a bucket and then put it in a small Tetramin container and feed the fish. So this is the the Tetramin container. It's one of those ones from God knows when. Quite a while ago, apparently. And if you look inside, you can see, here we go. It's quite a variety of flake food in there. These are like a meat flake, probably. Most likely I used a beef heart or something like that. And the brighter color ones are different types. There's green in there, red, whatever. So that's the other thing they get fed. And I do that the way I kind of plan it out is their last meal of the day is going to be the live baby brine shrimp, which they go nuts for no matter what, whether they're hungry or not. And the first meal in the morning, when they're really hungry because they haven't eaten in 12 to 16 hours, is going to be the flake food mix, which is less exciting for them than the moving, nutrient-packed live baby brine shrimp. A few times a week, I'll give them some frozen bloodworm, or not bloodworms. Once in a while I cut up bloodworms, but the frozen adult brine shrimp. I'll probably do a video in the future of putting some of that into a warm container of water, mixing it up, and using the ear wash syringe to feed the tanks. It's kind of hard to keep coming up with good ideas for people like you that already know everything there is about guppies. But anyway, that's the first part, which will be very confusing because the next part that's going to start any minute, any second, is going to sound like it's the first part. And that's because I did this backwards. But I figured 10 minutes of looking at a couple of brine shrimp hatchers with me talking is going to be less exciting than this first 10-minute part. So this female is really nice. I'm going to use this one as a breeder. Really dark black coloration. It's very impressive. I really like that. So I have to get her out with probably this male because that's got nice color too. Nice weird thumb dorsal. So anyway, I digress. But that's the end of the first part, which is technically the end of the video. But you got 10 more minutes to watch. All right, thanks. All right, this video will be a little bit different than most of my other ones. I'm not going to be starting out showing you fish. This is a view of my 2 brine shrimp hatchers. I want to go over feeding guppies for optimum growth. It's one of the things that once you're in the hobby for a while and you start seeing the potential of the fish, you want to maximize what you can do for the fish that you own. And a lot of that starts at the very earliest age, once they're born. You want to feed the baby guppies with the best possible food you can. And the best real food for it, despite what a lot of people want to hear because they don't want to go through the mess and the hassle, is live baby brine shrimp. It, without a doubt, the best thing you can feed the fish. And the benefits of the live shrimp is that the newly hatched shrimp have more nutrients in them than anything else you can feed to your fish, as long as you use the hatch within 8 to 10 hours. You can get a larger hatch if you wait another 12 hours, but you have to be careful that the hatch doesn't start to crash. So that's some of the things. The benefits of the brine shrimp are that it attracts the babies into eating them by the movements. It's naturally high levels of protein that the brine shrimp has, and it's also rich in nutrients that other foods lose because they were processed. So there are the reasons for brine shrimp being one of the best foods. I'll move on to some other things after I cover the things you'll need for hatching brine shrimp for those people watching that are interested. You obviously need a hatcher. What I have are, I think they're 2 gallon, they might be 2 liter hatchers, 2 of them. And as you can see, they have a conical shape, a stand that they sit in, and at the bottom they have a valve that you're going to get the brine shrimp out of. So it's a very simple thing to use. The other things you're going to need is obviously a light, and you want to keep the temperature as high as you can, like close to 80. In my instance, I hatch them at about 78 degrees because that's the highest I can get this room they're in up to without heating up the rest of the house. So the other thing you're going to need is, look at that, brine shrimp eggs. That's actually 16 ounces, which may be more than you need. And I buy the highest grade I can, which is 90 to 95% hatch. So the other things you're going to need is you're going to need a brine shrimp net, hopefully one cleaner than mine. And I also use something that used to be for sale. It's a brine shrimp sieve for larger quantities. A little hard to find. Somebody else probably makes them by now. This one's dirty. I try to clean it out once in a while because otherwise nothing ever drips out of it. So obviously you also need a collecting container, which I fill it with aged water, and because you don't want to use the water that's in the brine shrimp hatcher, because that's some filthy salt water, because you want to get the salinity up to about 1.011 to 1.020, best for brine shrimp. And you don't want to put that with brine shrimp waste and dirt and eggs and all kinds of stuff into your tanks. And you're also going to need something to get it out with. I use these things. They're ear washer syringe things. You can get them at a Walgreens, CVS, any kind of a drugstore that is in your area. So the other thing you're going to need is when you turn off the air supply to the brine shrimp, you're going to need a nice flashlight. I use an LED flashlight, which is one of those super bright ones that lasts forever on the 3 AAA batteries. And once you collect the shrimp, which I really can't do that with this video because I really can't hold the camera and use the 2 hands you need for getting the brine shrimp taken care of. So this is going to be a preliminary thing. And the other thing I wanted to mention is when I was working full-time, which was like a 10-hour day with 2-hour commute, I tried some easier methods and different foods, and I wasn't hatching live baby brine shrimp at all for about a year and a half. And I saw a noticeable difference in the size and the fin shape and health of the guppies by not feeding the live baby brine shrimp. It's really necessary to raise them the best you can, the guppies. So I used various high-protein, high-fat powder type foods, everything from decapsulated eggs, which are the actual brine shrimp egg with the egg casing removed. They do it by putting them in a container of bleach and then stripping it and then cleaning it off. I also used golden pearls, and once the guppies got a little bigger, I tried these fancy guppy pellets. And all these things kind of, they worked. They kept the fish alive, but I didn't get the growth that I got with the live baby brine shrimp. So one other thing that I will mention, it's not a commercial for me trying to sell some food, but I will mention that I have come up with my own high protein, high density foods that I'll be selling. Anybody that's a subscriber, just email me. I'll sell you a container for $9 plus shipping. And it's so dense, that'll last you probably for a year, depending how long, how many tanks you have, and you want to feed it very sparingly. And what I did is I mixed up various 5 or 6 high protein powder type and small granule type food. So I feed it to all the fish. And I'll go over that more in a separate video. I don't want to diminish the importance of feeding live baby brine shrimp. So in addition, with the attraction to the guppies of the shrimp by the movement, as I think I already said, the brine shrimp is rich in nutrients, and it's because it's not processed at all. You're just hatching the baby shrimp and feeding them while they're at their optimum nutrition level for the fish. There's many ways you can hatch it. I use these larger hatchers. There are also ones that are 5-gallon conical shape and even a 10-gallon, which is more used by commercial hatcheries and guys with multiple tank syndrome of hundreds of tanks. There's also the small San Francisco Bay type, which is good for if you have just a couple of tanks of fish. And then other people have instructions and videos online for doing a make your own brine shrimp hatcher out of 2-liter soda bottles. So one thing I also want to mention is you want to speed up the maintenance and preparation process. Take any kind of shortcuts you can with methods that have worked for you. I do that by adding a teaspoon of baking soda to the hatcher. That bumps up the pH a little. And some people use about 5 drops of bleach in a 2-gallon, 2-liter hatcher. And what that does is loosens up the casing of the egg, so you may get a better hatch rate. I'm actually going to try that out in the future. And I'll probably run one hatcher with and one hatcher without and see how that works. So anyway, that's some of the basics on the reasons for using live baby brine shrimp and that it's good for your fish. And I'll add another part to this one where I'm actually feeding the fish with the live baby brine shrimp that's been collected, harvested, and I'll squirt it out into the tanks with that earwash syringe. So anyway, I appreciate it. I hope it wasn't too boring just looking at the hatchers bubbling, but it is kind of cool. So I'll be back adding another part to this one, which will be more exciting. It'll be videos of actual fish moving around and eating shrimp. All right, thank you so much. All right, I will complete the video with the last part, showing you the red mosaic snakeskins eating their breakfast of live baby brine shrimp. Normally I'd feed this later in the day, but I wanted to finish up the video. So I fed them early, and I'll feed them the later feeding of a mixture of flake foods. So anyway, as you can see, they obviously love the food and go after it like crazy. The obvious benefits, as I mentioned, are the nutrition, the fact that you grow it yourself, so there's no processing out of any important nutrients, and the fish love to eat small live meals. So you're doing a number of things for the guppies, which is the best food you can feed them. Even the adult live brine shrimp, which you can get in some pet stores, or you can do an experiment and grow your own out in a 10-gallon tank, doesn't give as much nutrients as the live baby brine shrimp. So I give them the live adult brine shrimp once in a while, mainly because they get all excited, and to be honest with you, they pretty much just crap it out pretty quickly. So I don't think it's roughage like corn is to humans, but there's not a lot of benefits to the adult brine shrimp. It's mainly the baby brine shrimp. So they're going after it, and I'll put in another bit of the shrimp. This one I'll put in for the red deltas. It's the grow out tank of the red deltas. I got to start picking some breeders out of here very quickly, actually, and figure out what else I'm going to do here. But you know, you can see all of them immediately go after the live baby brine shrimp. They have algae on the side of the tank to eat as well, and it's good for them. So I highly recommend that you try to add it, at least to fish that you really want to grow out and get larger, because this will really help. It also helps with their color and anything else that you need to grow out some nice fish. Now, these are 4 months old, so pretty soon they're not going to get the live baby brine shrimp anymore. So I'm going to pick out some males that I can hopefully enter in some shows starting in April, and then pick out some breeders, and then that's the rest. I'll figure out what I'm going to do with here. But anyway, that's the end of this long video of how to maximize the growth potential of your guppies and feeding them live baby brine shrimp. All right, thanks. Hope it wasn't too boring.